Hello classmates, my name is Heather. I live and work in Barstow, California. It's up in the high desert. So something that you wouldn't know by looking at me is that I'm actually a stroke survivor. So in August 29th of 2010, I had something that's known as a middle cerebral artery stroke. And it's a stroke, it's basically a blood clot in the biggest portion, the biggest artery in your brain. So it's gonna be 13 years now that I have survived that. And ever since then, I've become a big advocate for stroke. Everybody that I know, I try to tell them the symptoms of stroke and then the FAST test to diagnose when one is happening, because luckily I had a friend that knew what was going on, and so I was able to get to the hospital on time. But I feel like there's just not a whole lot of awareness about that. So I'm gonna be studying for my master's in inspired learning, and then I'll also be seeking my single subject teaching credentials for math. So currently I'm a long-term sub, and I teach geometry and algebra 2. And once I got there, I noticed that we didn't have a whole lot of qualified math teachers. So that really pushed me to start seeking those credentials. And then 3 hopes that I have in becoming a teacher are actually related to my current position, and then moving forward. Eventually, I would like to be in administration as well, so I have a couple of fears there. So my first hope is I would like to be a safe space for my students. So the area that I teach in is actually severely economically disadvantaged, and I want to make sure that my students have a safe place to go on school campus. For me, my high school teachers were my safe place, so I just want to make sure that my kids really have that same kind of environment that they had when I was in high school. And then my second hope as a math teacher is to change their mindsets. So there's 2 current states of mind when it comes to learning. There's a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And when it comes to math, most kids are actually more of a fixed mindset. So I actually do this with my kids. I do it once a quarter, where we do sort of like a survey as far as where they are growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And I told them that my hope is by the end of that school year, they've changed from either fixed to growth or from fixed to a little bit closer to growth mindset. So I definitely like to change their perspective as far as math is concerned. And then my last hope is to be as passionate of a teacher as the ones that I had in high school. Like I said, for me, my high school teachers were my safe space, but my math teachers in particular were very, very passionate about the subject. So I'm working on that, but that's definitely something that I would like to become just as passionate as my teachers were. So 3 fears that I have in becoming a teacher are related to the program, but also with my current position as well. So my first fear is actually with my current position. We have a lot of teacher shortages, and so that leads to me having to cover during the classes that I have. So it makes it very difficult to focus on my content and do my grading, and then it's just a lot of switching back and forth between different subjects. So I understand that there is a national teacher shortage, but it's definitely a big fear that I have once I get my teaching credentials, is that I'm going to be doing the same thing over and over, covering classes, and it really does make the job very hard. So my second fear that I have is relating to my current position, and it's a fear of failing my kids. So I have noticed that a couple of my kids, they just seem very apprehensive towards math. And the biggest thing that I don't want is I do not want my kids to change their mentality towards math. So that's another fear that I have. And then my last fear that I have is not finishing this program in time and not getting those math C-sets completed, especially because that calculus portion is pretty difficult. So that's a pretty big fear that I have as well. I look forward to meeting the rest of you guys and getting to know you as we go along this journey together.